Okay, so talking about fractions, what are fractions? Fractions are ratios. So even before getting into fractions, let's just talk about ratios. So a ratio is comparing one number to another number. So here, if I was going to compare any kind of number, instead of using numbers, let's just say A and B to generalize to any kind of numbers. So A to B could be written A colon B. Those are two ways to write the exact same thing. Third way to write the exact same thing is A, division symbol, and then B on the bottom. So this is a ratio just written in fraction form. So the A here is on top, and we're going to call that the numerator. So whatever's in the top of the fraction over the fraction line is called the numerator. Whatever's on the bottom is going to be called the denominator. Okay, so that's basically the anatomy of a fraction. You have numerator, division line, and then denominator. Now, if we have a number in the numerator, say 2, and then we have another number in the denominator that's larger than the numerator, let's say, let's pick a number greater than 2, let's say 3. Okay, so here we have a fraction where the numerator 2 is less than 3. So this is called a proper fraction. Proper fraction. And it's a proper fraction because proper fractions are always going to be less than 1. Okay, so do you see that 2/3? Like if you had 2/3 of a pie, this pie is broken up into 3 sections. This is 1/3, this is 2/3. So 2/3 is represented here in the shaded portion. Do you see that it's not equal to the entire pie? It's less than the whole pie. So proper fractions are always less than 1. Whereas improper fractions, say 3 divided by 2. 3 divided by 2 would be an example of an improper fraction. Improper fractions are fractions that are worth greater than 1. Okay, so while this is representing 2/3, let's come over here and write another kind of division of, here we're going to need 2 pies. So let's divide these into halves, both of them. Okay, so here I'm going to fill this in, this half, and then this half. And then it says that I want not just 2 halves, but 3 halves. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3. 3 halves. So do you see how 3 halves is actually more than 1? It's actually 1.5. You could rewrite improper fractions if you wanted to in a mixed number style. So you could say, oh, well, this is equal to 1.5. So you could also write that 1.5. This right here is called a mixed number because you mix a whole number plus leftover fraction. But these mean the same thing. So improper fractions, and I get this question a lot, are improper fractions okay, or do you want to always turn them into these mixed numbers? And for my class, anyway, I can't speak for other teachers, but for my math class, I love improper fractions. Improper fractions are fantastic. Don't feel on a quiz or on a test, unless it like specifically asks you to, don't feel that you ever have to turn an improper fraction into a mixed number. You can leave it as an improper fraction, meaning if 3 halves is your answer, you can leave it as 3 halves. Circle it and move on. You don't need to turn it into 1.5. You don't get, any credit taken off if you want to turn it into a mixed number, but it's just an extra process that is unnecessary, at least for me anyway. So please, improper fractions are totally fine. They are our friends. It's unfortunate, isn't it, that the word improper is the name for a perfectly wonderful fraction. Just because the numerator is bigger than the denominator, there's nothing bad about it. There's nothing wrong about it. So to call it improper is unfortunately not a super useful term, but it's what everyone calls it. So we're just going to have to continue saying it's improper. But know that just because it's called improper doesn't mean that there's anything bad with it. In fact, I usually prefer it If you can write an improper fraction and not have to turn it into a mixed number or into some decimal, just leave it. Just leave it. Okay? Thanks.